Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I have the opportunity to work on a reel in a bag project. This one was sent in by Dwight from Alabama, and got a bag with some parts in it here. I have a partial frame. I have a guts, the gear side of a Penn number 9. Now, number 9 is the smaller version of the 109 and the 209. A lot of folks make the mistake and assume that the 109 pen is that smaller version. And although it looks very similar, it has a different mechanical setup inside. The one that has the same setup for the 209 and the 309 is actually the Penn 9. And the Penn 9s with the red side plates are the Peerless version, and we'll show you how to take this apart because, well, it still needs to be serviced even though it's reels in a bag, and we'll show you how to get it back there fishing again and assembled properly. So if you have one of these, you may want to play along. If you're curious about the reel, well, stay tuned. For those that are watching, I would encourage you to subscribe, and if you do subscribe, please hit my notification button. That way you'll see all of the videos that I post, and you'll be able to determine which ones you want to watch. Alright, we're going to start this by taking off this trim ring. You cannot remove the bridge and the gearing assembly without removing that trim ring. We have a problem right away. This lever is on backwards. This is your free spool eccentric lever. I'll show you how to set that up. So a lot of times this winds up backwards because the eccentric actually goes to here, and when folks try to put the lever on, well, it hits the case. And if it hits the case, they can't get it back on. Right, it's over here, and so they flip it around because they are having trouble resetting. Well, here's the way to reset that. Turn your lever upside down, if you will, and find the balance point where it's sitting but it's not springing free. Then take that lever off, invert it to the proper way it should be set, and then put the screw back in, and you will have attached it properly. So it's all about finding that balance point, which is usually midpoint in the stroke on these eccentrics. I'm trying to get that piece back in there, and me and small screws don't play well together. Let's try this one more time. Patience. What you need for reel repair. Alright, looks like we got it this time. Alright, so we've already corrected job 1. We want to remove the bridge now, and we want to make sure that the reel is serviced inside before we go putting all those pieces and parts that are laying in the tray back together again. So my guess is that Dwight probably got started on this project, probably got a little overwhelmed, may have lost track, and kind of called see if I could do that for him. Well, one of the ways that you can help yourself is to get the schematic for the reel. That's going to tell you where all those parts go, and also take pictures along the way as you remove those pieces and parts. Well, I just loosened the 4 screws. I'm going to cup my hand now because there's a spring holding the anti-reverse lug that I don't want to lose. And I want to get those other 2 screws out too. Oh, one of them is still sticking, so let's just find that. There we go, I think we got it now. Push it through, keep your hand cupped, and then you'll find the spring underneath here. So there's a flat spring. We'll show you how to install that later, but that is your anti-reverse dog spring. And this one's kind of interesting because the 4 screws are all partially threaded screws, and most of the time when you get a Penn reel, there's 2 fully threaded and 2 partially threaded. That's okay, we'll put those in here. Now we're going to remove the jack and yoke assembly. You'll notice I'm wearing a protective glove on my hand. I like to keep the greases and oils off to the extent that I can, and that helps me do it. It's just the latex glove. All right, you can tell we've got a lot of old grease on the rims of this, and a lot of your service of a fishing reel is all about cleaning and re-lubricating. The other step in there is that you want to go ahead and inspect your pieces and parts, and if you find that there's a worn piece of part, well, you certainly want to replace it. That kind of holds as a statement for your drag washers predominantly, but anything. There's a lot of things you might find that are worn. Okay, that's nice and clean. We're going to start by, well, re-lubing. One of the things that we said, I'm going to use fishing reel grease. I use Penn Precision reel grease. A little bit of reel grease where the spool is going to go in. You want to check your pieces here. This is perfectly clean. I'm not sure if Dwight had an opportunity to clean these or not, but these do not have any residual greases on them. And then when you get to the pinion gear, well, inspect all the teeth. Make sure that they're in good stead, that there's no chips or cracks or any breaking points in there. Well, if you saw it come off quickly, we'll put it back a little bit more slowly. There are two springs that are the yoke springs. They go in the cavities on the side of the reel. When you get your yoke and your pinion gear, the side of the pinion gear with the slot faces out. Push that down and then come in and hook. There's a kind of an entry point into that, and then that's how we found it before we did the service. Okay, let's take a look at what's in the bridge side then. I like to start by removing the gear stack and then removing the gear sleeve. One side is usually easier to push through than the other. There's a pin that holds them. A little bit of trouble. There we go. That pin pushes through. That pin is holding the gear sleeve to the gear shaft or the bridge shaft. You can usually get it positioned and then pull it out the rest of the way, and then remove the gear sleeve, and I like to put that pin right back in there for a starter and put it back in. The reason we take that off is there's from time to time there's a lot of dried grease that gets on this post, and that hinders performance. I've just wiped all of that off. Now this is the post that when you take the cap or the screw off of your handle, it says oil. So if you didn't remove the sleeve, when you went to take the screw out of the handle, it would be here, and then you would oil it, and oil would seep in to kind of help you along. I prefer the grease if I have the opportunity to grease it, and that's what we just did there. I'm now using a little pliers to reset the pin, and I want to make sure that that pin clears that ridge of this. All right, we have a traditional 6 drag washer stack. These are all the new HD 100 washers, so this has been serviced since it's been manufactured. They originally came with the leather washers. I'm using a wire brush now to brush out the old grease that's in the teeth of the main gear. As I'm doing that, I am inspecting the teeth, make sure that they're all uniform and they're not chipped or bent or anything. I'm going to take the fishing reel grease again. I use an artist's brush for that. And we're going to just get a healthy dose. You don't need to overload it. If it overloads, you're just going to squeeze out, go to places where it's not effective. And then we can take the gear, and I guess I don't have the pin all the way in. And it's not just a little bit. That's why you need to make sure it clears that shoulder. Well, while I'm doing this, if you have a question on this reel or any reel in particular, if you leave it in the comment section, I do try to answer them. Maybe you're working on a reel and you're stuck. Maybe you just simply want to know a little bit more about the reel. Now these are HD100 Carbon Tex washers. You can put some grease on it, or you can leave them dry. we'll use, for this demonstration, we'll use some Cal's Universal Dry Grease. I dip the washer in there and I rub it almost to the point where it's dry. Then you're going to find 2 round or keyed washers and 1 eared washer that has points on it. So the 2 go top and bottom. We'll do this again with that dry washer grease. Just rub it around and insert that. And then this one with the 2 points, it's called an eared washer, that goes in the middle. One more of the washers. Then the second of the keyed washers goes up top. Then we have this cap retention washer that goes on top of that. That's how you set up the bridge stack. We have a anti-reverse dog now, and we have a flat spring. So the flat springs have been replaced now with coil springs by Penn. You don't find those around much anymore. I think, if I remember, the last time of the cap spring was actually 1957 or 58. I'm not sure on that. I'd have to check. All right, to install the bridge, we want to take our finger and push down on the yoke assembly, push the bridge in, seat it, and then turn that bridge to cover that pinion gear, just like that, and then hold it down. Take, in this case, one of your 4 identical screws, put that in. Then the dog goes in, like that. That's your dog assembly. And now you notice with that dog that we have a post here. That flat spring that we have is going to ride on the back end, and it's going to ride on the top of the dog. So let's see if we get a little bit closer. It rides here, wraps around the post, and comes up there. If I can get it to do that. These are small, flat-bladed springs, so sometimes they're a little bit difficult to do. Or at least if you have big hands, they're difficult to do. I'm going to try this with the pliers. This one is a little tough for me because of the size of my hands, but I've got it now. So you may or may not be able to see that. Again, it's not laying on the top of the dog here, wraps around the post, and sits on that side plate. Once you do that, then you can continue. Rotate the bridge the rest of the way around until that bottom of the post and the screw line up. And then take a couple of turns with it. Don't turn it all the way. Just make sure that it catches. Then you want to come back and set the others. I set those in an opposing pattern. So the next one I want to get set is the one that's opposite and on top. And if you can't see it, just kind of turn it over. You'll see it that way. There we go. Then you can do the bottom one. That's 3. And now when we get the 4th one done, we'll go back and tighten them all. All right, 4th one's in. The reason I do that is there's a little bit of play or wiggle room needed when you do these. It's kind of better to do them right there. Okay, let's see what we got on the back here. I'm thinking, yeah, that one's going to go there. This one is missing the burring. I was trying to figure out which one was going where for that. So let's put the grease in the burring here. That's going to go on this side. This is where the reel in the bag project comes. So most of the time you're going to need a schematic to tell you which pieces go where. In this case, I've worked on these reels quite a bit, sort of know the mental picture of it, but if you don't know that mental picture of it, then go ahead and use the schematic. I think we just found out that that's not the right one. I'm looking at the worm drive gear underneath. And that one's being pushed in, so let's try this one. And I may need to go to the schematic for that. It's rare that people take all of these out, but it's not unusual either. Nope, that's not going to be. Let's reset that. Well, I think we've had this whole case apart, and maybe they tried to put the frame back. What's happening here is the worm gear is installed backwards. The inside's out and the outside's in. So I guess we're going to go ahead and do that. And I'll turn the camera off for a moment. You don't need to see me taking all the pieces and parts off. We'll pick it up in just a second. Okay, so this is what I was seeing from inside the case. This gear, the worm drive gear, is backwards. The flat side of this gear rests on the case. So that was the trouble I was having there. Trouble no more. We'll just mesh that. While I have it open, I oil this section here. You don't need to do anything with the plastic gear, and the metal you can oil if you prefer to do that. All right, we'll just go ahead and put it back together again then. So that's a couple of things that are telltales about folks that have opened up the reels. This would be one of them. All right, when you go to put the reels back together again, there's one that's a larger one that has the slot that goes up top. That's going to hold your line guide. I like to leave this one a little bit loose because you're going to need an adjustment on that, where that slot lands. You got two more of the bars. One goes low here. And if you're doing this and you have all your pieces and parts disassembled, put the bars in before you put the reel seat in. It's just an easier balancing act when you do that. So there's two different size screws. The long screws are the ones that go into the cross posts. The two shorter ones, the one I just removed here because I had it set incorrectly, go below here in the reel seat. All right, try and line the studs up. I use this pick an awful lot in my shop. I'm using it as a centering tool now for the other one. Go ahead and try and get this in. So if you're doing reel repair, you kind of prepare yourself for surprises along the way. A lot of times you're going to open up a reel and think, well, you got it. You're looking at a reel that hasn't been worked on. This is the order and sequence of the pieces and parts, only to find out that, well, somebody had opened it up and tried to do something and put it back incorrectly. And if you were trying to service the reel based on that knowledge, then you find yourself in a lot of trouble. All right, there we go. All of those parts are in now. I'm going to take the spool. I'm going to put a little bit of grease onto the tail end of the spool here. That's going to seat itself in the bearing. I'm going to take the cap now, trim ring for this side, and align the holes. And then what I like to do before I put the line guide mechanism is grease the shaft, set the free spool to off so that the pinion gear is back. I guess that's on, not off. Get one of the long screws from the other side case and just get it started to hold its position. Just a turn or two. I need to play in the side plate. The guide shield has one short side and one long side. The short side faces out. You'll notice it has points on both sides. So what I like to do now, with a little bit of room in there, go ahead and set the one side, short side out, come over and set the other side. So that's what we've just done here. When I do that, now you can go ahead, tighten down that screw that you started, and that'll hold that line guide in place. No, I didn't forget the mechanism. That comes next. Long screw again to the bottom post. So this reel mechanically is the same as the 209 and the 309. So if you have either one of those, you will know from this video how to work on those. If you have the 109, it's a different setup. So if you don't know how to work on that one, well, I have a video out there on the 109. Go ahead and take a look at it. All right, we have that same alignment problem going over here. I'll use my pick to center it. Try and get the other screw in. Here we go. Take the one screw that belongs there. And then I should only have one more screw left in my basket. So Dwight was good enough to make sure that he sent all the pieces and parts, and that's always a good one. Sometimes I'll get these reel in a bag projects in with, well, less than what the reel came with initially. Okay, at this point you should be able to spin the spool. And we're in gear. You can see the spool spins nicely. So that tells you that basically everything that you need to do is correct. On this one, it looks like a new line guide assembly. When you're working on the reel, as a service, you want to make sure that the pawl is in good condition and that the line guide is working properly before you go install that. To service the pawl, remove the cap. Remove the pawl. The pawl is a cylinder with 2 points on it. Check to make sure it's clean. This one is. We'll go ahead and put a drop of oil into the cap. That'll help that cylinder spin freely. Put it back together and then load it into your line guide carrier. And I like to set it in about the center. Now, you need to work to mesh the teeth on that pawl with the grooves on the line worm gear. So I do this. I get it started until it snugs up. And when you move that up and down as you're turning this, it's helping to bump the teeth over until you can finally notice that you basically got it working properly. And then you just need to tighten it down the rest of the way. It's kind of a feel thing. We're not in there yet. But eventually you get it. Now we got it. All right. So now you're running free back and forth. Put a drop of oil onto the line guide. I do not put, I don't put grease on the line guide. I put oil on there. And the reason I do that is that the oil may evaporate quicker, but it doesn't trap the dirt and grease, or dirt and debris that grease will trap. Move your line guide arm over to the right hand side in this case, and then we're going to insert the left side of it from the inside through this hole, just like that. Bring it over, and now's the time where you want to work to make sure that that line guide gets in the slot of the bar above. I just took the tension off now so that we can get that set properly. Just like that. Once you do that, go get your second line guide cap, bearing, bushing, whatever they call it. And start tightening, threading it and tightening it down. Just like that. If you're meeting some resistance, you can leave it a little bit short. I'm going to come over and put the gear sleeve on. Clean this up a little bit. And the star adjuster. Remember, we have this in the off position. I'm going to move that over to the on position. Tighten down the, and now what you want to do is you want to turn your reel in the on position. And while you're turning it, you're going to take the side of the arm and you're going to press in so that it merges with the slot in the worm gear. Now you should be able to tighten up that side screw. And when you turn your reel now, you should have the line guide moving, which is what we have. Remember, we left this loose. Let's tighten that up now. And then just make sure that it's turning freely once again. All right, last part then is the handle. They left the handle set screw in the handle, so we'll take that out for now. Handle comes on. I'm going to use that little kitchen scrubby, which has some rod and reel cleaner on there. If we didn't take that sleeve off, you'd put the oil in now. But we took that off as part of the service, so it's already been lubricated. Grab your wrench and tighten that handle down. And then find the scallop that aligns with that handle set. And then you can put the screw in. And we can finish this. Oh, only one thing to do, and that's the test. While I'm setting that up, I want to thank our first responders and essential personnel and everybody who's been keeping us safe during this pandemic. I appreciate everything you do, and thank you for it. All right, we should be in good condition here. Let's go ahead and give it a crank. It turns nicely. Let's make sure that the drags are holding. They need a little adjustment there. Drags are holding. Make sure you're in free spool. Free spool works fine. That's it. That's your Penn 9. It's the pure version, which is the red side plated one. And that's how you service the reel. And that's how you put it back together again if it came in a bag. So Dwight, thank you for sending it in. I wish you good luck fishing with the reel. To everybody, please stay safe, stay well, and stay watching. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.